Payback. Chapter 31. Then. Revenge is like sex, Mr. Dresden. It's best when it comes on slow, quiet, until it all seems inexorable. It's been 6 months since I got arrested by the detectives of the National Crime Unit at Central Police. I was charged as an accomplice to multiple counts of fraud. I am currently remanded to Lusaka Remand Prison, pending sentencing. The first time I appeared in court, I was sworn in before the judge read the charges and asked me if I pleaded guilty or not guilty to the charges. When I pleaded, not guilty, murmurs erupted throughout the courtroom, and a commotion stirred. The judge had to tap his gavel to regain order. During my trial, the courtroom was always filled to capacity. The investors were angry, and if I couldn't pay them back the money Zero and M owed them, they wanted me jailed. They made that clear in the many posters they displayed outside the court gates. They called Oscar and I scammers and accused us of utilizing their money as our own and using it for our own purposes instead of investing it in the stock exchange like the agreement had stated. The O&M Company building and all its assets were seized. The assets will be auctioned off while the building will be sold so that some of the people can be paid off. From the onset, my family and I knew this was a tough case. The evidence against me was overwhelming. The lawyer they hired made it clear it was a 50-50 situation. He told us that if he couldn't keep me out of jail, he could bargain for a lesser sentence since I was a first offender. "How are you doing?" Mom asks. She is here to see me. I am supposed to appear in court in a week's time for my sentencing, and honestly I am scared. I am scared for Evangeline and my unborn child. If I am sent to prison, what kind of life will they have? How will this affect their childhood? I swear I envy Oscar. It should have been me in that car and not him. How could he have just died and left me to deal with such a mess? There's a part of me saying Oscar was a scammer and cheat, but there's also this other part that refuses to believe he was that kind of man. That man loved me. He accepted my child as his own and we had great moments together. How could he have switched up on me like that? There's an explanation, right? He should have answers for what he did. Apparently I will never get the chance to ask him because he is gone. Autumn. She taps my shoulder and I quickly snap out of it. I am always zoning out lately. There's so much running through my mind. This is all too much for a pregnant woman to go through. I am trying, Mummy. I know it's hard, but please don't lose hope. We are all praying for you. Please hang in there, my baby. It shall be well. I nod my head. I need to ask you something, Ma. I need a favor from you and Papa J. What is it? You know you can ask anything from us and we will give it to you. If I am sent to jail, I want. You are not going to jail, Autumn. Stop talking like that, please. Mama, hide. I am glad you have all this faith and you are trying to hype me up, but please let's face reality. The sentencing could go 2 ways and I have been preparing myself for it. I want you to do the same. Prepare Evangeline as well. She reaches for my hand and squeezes it gently. I can see the fear and pain in her eyes. No mother should have to go through what she is going through. She told me last time if she could switch places with me, she could. If I will be sent to prison, I will sign consent letters for you to be my child's legal guardian. I want you to take her as soon as she is born. Prison is filthy and I wouldn't want her to be exposed to such an environment. Don't worry, child. We shall do that for you. We shall take care of both children. Thank you. There's something I need to tell you. I apologize in advance for not consulting you before I did this, but... What did you do? I took out a loan for Oscar before he died and both of my houses were used as collateral. The bank has been in touch with Sky. We have defaulted for some months and they are likely to take over the houses. Autumn. She stares at me shockingly. Yes, I know I was stupid, but he was my husband and I thought. This is a mess. I know, so they have only be lenient with me because I am an employee of the bank, but they will come for the houses, especially after I am sentenced. They will obviously send a notice, but before that, I want you to put the houses on rent, sell everything too, and use the money for the children. Okay. Sky will help you. Talk to her, and once more, I am sorry, Mama. You raised me better than this. I was a fool. There's no need to cry over spilt milk. I love you, child, and whatever happens next week, your father and I will always have your back. Thank you. I love you too. After she hands me the things she brought me, she leaves and I am taken back to my cell. Asterisk. A week later. Wearing a bright orange prison jumpsuit and handcuffs, a pregnant Autumn is led into the courtroom that is filled to capacity by onlookers and spectators. Clad in all black, I sit at the far end of the courtroom. When Autumn gets seated at a long table, she has her face downcast. I wish she could look up so I can see the look on her face. I want to be sure she has cried the same amount of tears I cried because of what she did to me and my children. I am snapped out of my thoughts when the bailiff calls the court into order, asking everyone to either turn off their phones or place them on silent while court is in session. Pulling out my phone, I quickly turn it off and place it back in my purse. All rise, he says a moment later in a loud voice as the judge walks in. Presenting Honorable Masamba, he adds. We all stand up simultaneously. The judge sits down and bangs his gavel on the table. You may be seated, he says. Then he flips open his file, looks around the courtroom and says, will the defendant please rise? Autumn rises to her feet and I stare deep at her as she raises her head, unmindful of her pain-streaked face. Just one look at her I know she is suffering and that brings me so much joy. The trial court, after analyzing all the evidence on record, finds you Autumn Miller guilty of being an accomplice accessory to the charge of fraud, the judge says. And I feel my heart fluttering with excitement. Loud gasps and murmurs erupt in the courtroom. You are hereby sentenced to 5 years imprisonment with hard labor, he adds before hitting the gavel. Court dismissed. Thank you, Jesus, I say under my breath. I want to jump up and down in excitement, but I have to wait until I get out of here to do that. Autumn gasps with shock. Her eyes are wide in surprise and I almost laugh. What did she expect? She thought she could injure people and go around scot-free. Karma doesn't forget anyone's address. I am glad it has finally located her. As they escort her out of the courtroom, she stares at her family. The color has drained from her father's face. He looks pale. Her mother, on the other hand, is holding Evangeline's hand and they are both crying hysterically. Mission accomplished, I say quietly to myself before heading out of the courtroom. Lord knows I have waited for this day for such a long time. Indeed, he who laughs last laughs the loudest. Asterisk. Ella B.